Anyone that's been following me since Season 2 will know that I'm a big shipper of Sparity. I think they work as a really cute couple and I've made 3 videos about them. Though I think the romantic side of this should be left to the fanfic writers. After all, this show is about friendship. Regardless, it's been quite annoying how inconsistent this relationship has been over the seasons. Examples being when Rarity gives Spike the smallest gem in Just for Sidekicks, or the numerous cases of Rarity exploiting Spike. As a result, I was a little nervous about how their relationship was going to be handled here. Well, I'm happy to say that this episode handled their relationship perfectly. There was no fawning over her from Spike, no condescension from Rarity or indication that she was exploiting him, just Spike helping her out in whatever way he can, and Rarity showing proper gratitude for his help. This to me works as a good bit of closure to all the speculation that these two could end up together, as we see here that they aren't in love, but they are good friends. Spike and Rarity in this episode were wonderful together. Sadly, I can't say the same for the episode as a whole. I mean, it wasn't horrible or anything, I actually thought the lesson was really good, but there was a lot of stuff here that didn't add up. I can say though that the first act was pretty much all good. The exposition during the opening was a lot better than last week as it introduces the conflicts pretty quickly with the puppeteer, who I like to think of as Snips' dad, not liking the theatre, without the writers feeling the need to explain why she's making the theatre. It was nice to see something that focuses on the idea that making something stylish isn't good if it means sacrificing its functionality. They also bring back the castle of the Pony Sisters, though still no sign of that shadowy pony from the end of Castlemania. I don't really get why Aloysius went with him or why he follows him around for the rest of the episode. I mean, where's Twilight this whole time? What is it with Spike finding random mechanisms on bookshelves that reveal Deus Ex Machina books? Wow, Spike's breath is way more powerful than I thought. He should use that more often. Now, I can see some people having a problem with the fact that Spike just takes a suspicious looking book behind a locked door without thinking it might be dangerous. But I would argue that Spike is a little naive, that's his character. So it may not occur to him that this might not be the right thing to do. He also does seem fairly cautious in watching what Rarity does with the spell. It's not really until the following morning that any reason emerges to think that the spell might be dangerous. The only thing I found a little odd was the way her magic turned green. That seemed like a clear indication that something was up, especially when you consider the previous characters in this show that have had green magic. I don't know, maybe it's just an indicator to the audience that she was corrupted. The characters never comment on it, so I guess they can't see it. But that brings me on to my problems with the spell. What exactly did it do? Why did it enhance Rarity's magic right away, but only start corrupting her later? The way that Rarity says the spell herself seems to suggest that this is something she's casting on herself, as opposed to the Alicorn amulet that has its own magic. So why would her own magic have this kind of effect on her? Rarity doesn't even remember what she did when the spell was lifted, so does that mean she's been possessed by something else that was inside the book? What was it? Where did it go after the spell was lifted? How come it had her acting normal for the first day? What was its ultimate intention by having Rarity do all this? Why did Spike think taking the book away would do any good when it just had the incantation written in it? I mean, it just goes on and on. Another thing I found kind of hard to look past was how much filler there is in the middle part of this episode. One scene of Rarity causing mayhem with her creative magic and Spike being unsure if he should say something would have been enough, but instead we get 4. Maybe I would have been okay with this if I'd found these scenes funny, but I really didn't. The only real enjoyment I got out of them was seeing Octavia again. By the way, did you notice Vinyl was in this episode as well? Though not in the same scene. But the climax to this episode does present a pretty difficult situation for Spike to deal with. He's known for a while that what Rarity's doing isn't right, and he knows he has to do something to stop it, but at the same time he doesn't want to offend Rarity for fear of losing her as a friend. And this makes even more sense when you take his crush on her into account. It's a selfish motivation to not do something, but it does make sense given Spike's character.
Once I do, I can forget Rarity thinking of me as her most supportive friend. I can forget Rarity thinking of me as a friend at all.
Too bad he flat out announces the problem to Aloysius, leaving no room for subtlety or the option for the audience to figure it out. I also think this problem is somewhat spoiled by the fact that Rarity is clearly being corrupted by the spell. She's not herself, so if Spike tells her what she's doing isn't right, is he really hurting Rarity's feelings? It's pretty clear that this spell did something to make Rarity do all this. Isn't he just saying that the spellbook has done more harm than good? I mean, the true Rarity agrees with Spike that what she did was bad.
Though by the looks of it, something quite terrifying has happened to Ponyville.
So how is Spike going to lose a friend by just pointing this out? With that said, I did enjoy Rarity's freakout here. I was actually a little scared the first time I watched this part. As for the lesson, holy cow, talk about a double-edged sword. We have a really good lesson here about being honest with your friends, and that if telling them the truth is enough to stop people from being your friends, they were never really your friends in the first place. But the way it's laid out in this episode is a bit weird. First of all, Rarity isn't herself, so you could argue that Spike isn't even really talking to Rarity here. Second, he does it because she's on the verge of causing a natural disaster with what she's done to the town. Finally, he only tells her the truth as a last resort. So isn't this kind of sending the message that you should only tell your friends the truth in situations where they've completely lost it, are causing major problems, and only as a last resort? All in all, it's a good lesson, but the way it's conveyed doesn't really work. It also bugs me a little that while Spike does rightfully get called out by Twilight for taking the book, he doesn't seem to take it in. Overall, I love the way they handled Spike and Rarity here. Rarity's freakout was enjoyable to watch, and it's a really good lesson. But the whole thing with the spell and the way Spike just conveniently comes across it just leaves me asking way too many questions, and the second act is mostly just filler. I think there probably are more things to like in this episode than dislike, but not by much.